Hello, with us, Mr. Lawrence Lerner, who is coach, blockchain realist, and I guess mentor also, right?
That's
what
right.
you do, Lawrence.
That's right. I'm also the CEO of Archain Holdings, a blockchain investment company for companies that are just entering the blockchain market and mature companies that are pivoting to blockchain. We also fund education companies.
Okay.
In the blockchain space, I should add. Yeah.
So it's 100% in the blockchain environment.
That's correct.
Okay. Some of the projects that you're doing in details, exciting stuff?
It's all very exciting right now. And we just opened our first fund. Our first company is an identity company. In fact, what we're focusing on and what we call Fund Zero is all of the things that blockchain developers and companies that are creating on-ramps into the space really need to get started. Wallets, exchanges, identity solutions, solutions that really help make the environment go. Also testing tools, right? There aren't enough blockchain testing tools today. And as people are building out to test for scalability, communication between nodes, how well their smart contracts work, we're able to do that. And those are the companies that we're looking for. In addition, as I mentioned, education. Everybody that I know that's trying to get into the space, whether they're a developer or a business person, has asked me the same thing. Where do we go for education? And while there's lots of things in GitHub and online, there isn't a lot of formal education. So we're looking for partnerships of companies to help develop that educational materials. We'll sponsor some of it, but like all good parents, we want our children to be more successful than ourselves. Also looking to take investments in development companies that are purely focused on blockchain.
Okay, so this is mainly like a fund approach, right?
That's right. That's right. And you know, underlying it, I should be very clear, is because we're part of Archain, the Archain ecosystem, which is being built out by the Archain Cooperative. We look for all of our partners to use Archain as their underlying technology or one of the technologies that they deliver links to or collaborate with.
Okay, so basically you kind of take in a structured approach in terms of developing the ecosystem of Archain, correct?
That's right, very much so. That's a great way to put it. Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of the structure of the fund, this is like a closed-end fund, open fund. How does it work for other people to get involved?
Yeah, well, we're still taking investments. We've partially funded it, and we're going to close that out probably in the next 90 days. There'll be a cap, and we're looking to spend that fund within about 18 months. So we're taking, you know, very focused, shorter-term approach, and then look for some ROI outside of the fund, you know, fairly rapidly, and then we'll develop other funds. So smaller versus one really large fund to begin with, and we may create some sub funds as well. But it's open for investors today to become part of it.
So Archain is involved to which extent with the fund? I'm sorry to ask more questions about the fund.
No, that's a great question. So the Archain Cooperative, we have a deep partnership with them, and obviously a lot of the folks from our team and their team have been part of the two companies. And right now they are not in the fund. It wouldn't make sense. That would look a little odd if we were doing that. We get a lot of collaboration, and Greg Meredith, of course, the founder of the Archain Cooperative, is on the board of Archain Holdings. So we've got that deep relationship there, and Greg has got a great point of view around things that help the ecosystem expand. Okay. So he and I work very closely.
Okay, so that's the involvement right there. I mean,
right.
That's okay. And you spoke about basically developing the basic tools such as wallets, exchanges, etc.
Yes.
So where is that adds value in the ecosystem? In your own ecosystem or in the overall blockchain environment?
Well, these are tools that are foundational to everything you would need to do, whether you were building on Ethereum or Hyperledger. Today, there's not a lot of maturity in the tool sets, and
Okay.
there's not a lot of standardizations, particularly around identity. Oracles is another example of things. So with these tools, it accelerates the build out of the blockchain ecosystem, and it creates scale. Quite honestly, the more people that are using it, the more examples we can point to, or anybody who's using it we're going to be able to say there's real maturity in
Okay.
this.
And this is okay. And the exchange is to build coins which are chain in the chain ecosystem, or
Well, that would be great, but really the exchanges have their own issues with scalability when things are going very quickly. We'd like to see them built out on the R-Chain ecosystem, and a natural evolution of that are atomic swaps.
okay.
We're starting to see the complete decentralization. I don't think it'll happen this year, but over the next 2 years, you'll see more coin-to-coin trading through what people are calling atomic swaps and specific wallets and technology that allow that. Because we know we won't be the only exchange, so we want to create interoperability, but we certainly want to be the driving force behind a lot of it.
Okay, so how would this exchange differ from the other exchanges? This would be a decentralized one?
It would be decentralized. It would take advantage of some of the R-Chain technology around composable namespaces, a higher degree of concurrency, and all of the advantages of the speed of the transactions that we provide, so that you could break up the way that the exchange does the work, so it isn't still one centralized place, and it provides a higher level of security for those who have their money there.
Okay, so let's tackle this. Let's talk a little bit about security. How does the architecture diverge? I mean, because security is a big issue here for exchanges. So how does this kind of diverge from the existing environment?
It's a good question. There's a lot of different things. One of the things is we're building a language from the ground up. It's based on mobile process calculus.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, when I say we, I mean the cooperative is building it. And that'll be a language called Rolang. And what we've got there is a strongly typed correct by construction language. So the compiler is going to give you warnings and errors if you're not building it in a way that allows for robustness of type checking, which is where a lot of errors and hackability comes into play. That's number one. Number two, composable namespaces can be public or private addresses. And because you can ring fence your transactions to a series of nodes, it becomes more difficult to do an overall systems attack.
Okay. Okay. So
some of those are the highlights of why it becomes more secure.
Okay, so this is not going to be built in like a multi-layer type of environment with firewalls in between, etc., right?
Those are hardware implementations, and if you consider it, since the nodes are being run by independent operators, they very much could be firewalled. They could be running in independent data centers on Azure, on AWS, on GCP, Ali Cloud. All of those things are possible. So firewalls are certainly part of an implementation, or could.
Okay. Okay, perfect. What's the timeline for this? This is all very exciting.
It's really exciting. We've stood up our first bit of code that allows you to have build a node, let the nodes communicate, do the Genesis block, find the Genesis block, and that's live as of 3 weeks ago, a month ago.
Okay.
Our first SDK, look for that in late February, early March. Come to our dev community hangouts, and you'll get the updates from there. And then Mercury, which is our MVP release, where you'll be able to do node complete, compiler complete, and a series of tools. Look for that in Q4 of this year, 2018.
Nice. We'll be looking forward to that. Do you have any
Thank you.
schedule for the meetups, etc.?
Come to our website and you'll see we're
Wicked.
doing meetups in Seattle, Clearwater, Florida. We're working on London. We have a thriving QQ channel in China. Sorry, Dallas. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head. And we're looking for leaders in other cities. I'm actually going to the Bay Area next week, and for someone to lead the meetup there.
Okay, that's very exciting stuff.
Thank
okay,
you.
And now in terms of you talked about the training side of things. So how are you tackling that in a also structured manner, or you're
we're pretty structured about a lot of things, working through the community. So it's again us reaching out. The dev team is putting together a tremendous amount of documentation from the cooperative. I've met with my days never end. I met with two training companies over the weekend that do e-learning, and they're very interested in getting content and then building it out specific to the blockchain. Holdings will probably hire. We've got some great technical folks on the team, and we'll probably look to hire a couple more, maybe one or two architects. But we're also looking to find companies that want to build out those skills, particularly around people who understand blockchain architecture. It's just like the days when we went from procedural to functional coding, or to object-oriented or multi-threaded. There's a lot of different ways to think about the architecture and structure, and that's what makes it successful. And if we can't do that, then it doesn't matter how much money you throw into it or anything else. It's really a case of being able to, again, be correct by construction so that the project is successful, the company is successful, and it expands the ecosystem.
And so basically, if I may understand, what's the basic skill in order to do that conversion? What's the basic skill that is required in order to go to the next level?
Yeah, there's a couple of different skills. A good question. So strong multi-stack development, Java, Python. We find a lot of people with Rails. Obviously, Scala and Haskell are going to be super important for Golang. And people who are used to building large web architectures. So not just a website with RESTful APIs, but web architectures that are multifaceted, where you're pulling data in from multiple places and coordinating. People who are building traditional exchanges like a FTSE or a NASDAQ are good examples of that, because there's a lot of communications and technical protocols. And I should mention the languages that we're going to focus on initially: English, because lots of people use it; Mandarin Chinese, because it's such a big and thriving part of the community and ecosystem.
Okay, so those are the basic type of skills. So this is pretty high, pretty high end qualifications already. Yeah, you're talking to a really, you're talking to quite an advanced skill set in order to go to the next.
That's what's going to work and make success for the next year, I think, in that, because blockchain development is difficult. And then as new tools get developed, which we're going to invest in, you'll see a broader set of skill sets, and then more business people, analysts, and people who are technically minded, but have great business ideas that work really well in blockchain architectures.
Okay. So that's where you kind of, and then, so a guy like you is able to see through ICOs very quickly, because you literally can know if the guys are able to build the product or not.
True.
Is someone else benefiting from this knowledge other than yourself? Is this something, do you have like a platform where you kind of, talk to the community, etc.? Because obviously people that are involved with you are also involved with other.
That's right.
Parts of the ecosystem.
So I'm pretty open about it. I publish it on LinkedIn almost every day. I've tried other platforms, but that seems to be where the community comes. Everybody's welcome. I know I'm inviting a lot of hits, people to link in with me. And I speak at a lot of conferences. I'm up to now doing 4 a month. So yeah, it's, you know, it's a rough schedule, but it's so worth it. I talk to so many great people. And you know, I'll look for other platforms and would love to hear your own suggestions of where I might do that.
On our platform, Crypto News.
Well, all right, here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that there is really something to bring to the community by you know, having skillful people that really understand the matter, kind of helping weed out, you know, what's working, what's not, you know, what's obviously not going to be working unless they recruit guys that are able to do things. And where are the technical limitations really? Because a lot of people, they, you know, they're new to this. Probably their technical skills are not as advanced as yours. I mean, you've been around for so long, etc. So there will be really people are needing guidance because.
I appreciate the kind words. And yeah, we do see a lot of interesting things. We've seen a couple of very prominent companies in very unrelated spaces doing some pivots and saying, hey, we decided to be a blockchain company. One is an iced tea company. One is everybody's favorite photography company. And some of them are kind of head scratchers. And, you know, I've got some pretty simple rules for people to look at. The first one is there an earnable token, right? Taking Ethereum and Bitcoin take away all the value, all of the business things that get done. Every day, there are hundreds of thousands of transactions that get done. Miners get paid. And in Bitcoin, it's about $2.5 million a day of wealth that gets generated and spread amongst all of the miners. That is a very tangible thing you can put your finger on. It's a rounding error compared to traditional credit card companies, but at the same time, it's a very similar model. And that works. So you'll always hear me say, follow the money. And that is going to tell you whether it's a great idea for an ICO or for a company to build out in, because they have a way to use the token that becomes earnable and part of the transaction environment. If it's not, and there's certainly some instances where you might have a closed environment amongst a large number of partners that you don't need to do that, but there's still a mining operation going on in some form of gas or phlogiston, as we call it in the Archain world. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the things that I would look for. And is it decentralized? Because blockchain is not internet bacon. Not everything is better with it. There are some instances where centralization makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. You should, but those things that you can do with blockchain, you need to have the right architecture, the right people, and partners. It's still early days for a lot of things, but there's a lot of on-ramps that you can do within the next 90, 180 days in insurance, in supply chain, anywhere where there's membership onboarding, test tools that you can build for blockchain environments. And you know, I'm speaking to a number of industry consortiums, and they're all very excited. So we're getting them baby steps. This year, I would rather show 10 small projects that were successful, started and completed, and the owners can say, yes, we did them, small investments, versus one really large one that 12 months, 18 months later, we can say, yes, we've got success, right? That's not going to grow the ecosystem. Small wins.
Mm-hmm. And how about the identity space? You said that you were involved in the identity space as well.
So much. And, well, that's a big part of membership and onboarding. Things that DIDs, digital identifiers, there's a lot of work going on there. And a lot of it, I'll plug Seattle, Washington State. A lot of it's going on here. We've got Sovereign here. We've got companies like Life ID and Trusted Key that we know quite well that are building out solutions that are password replacement, things that allow you to identify the identity, not just of a person, but a place, an asset. And all of those things are foundational, and I use that word a lot, to getting any solution on board for a wallet. Timestamps are another example of that. And it starts to evolve to zero knowledge proofs. which allows you to share just the right amount of information, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. The example that I always use here in the U.S. Generally, to go into a bar, you have to be over 21. So you have a reasonable expectation, and this is not a perfect example, but when you go into the bar without knowing any individual's name, address, their driver's license, passport identification, you have a reasonable assumption, more than that their ID has been validated, they are over 21, and they haven't given up any more personal identification than that, which means it also isn't being stored or shared on a third-party set of servers.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop and let that sink in, the implications for GDPR, right to be forgotten, all of the US privacy laws such as HIPAA, personally identifiable information, PII, or PCI, payment card industry information, all of that goes away. That risk becomes very, very small. And it changes the game significantly for anyone. And it also creates a lot of opportunity because there's a lot of scale. So when I can say, hey, we've invested in this identity company and they are doing tens of millions of transactions every day on our chain, that shows scale. It shows adaptability and adoptability of the solutions.
Interesting. There was a big project, Civic, that was involved in this.
Another good example.
Yeah, so that's also in the same ecosystem.
Yes, it is.
Where you're operating. Okay. Well, the very interesting stuff. A lot of things that are very cool. Let us update it on what you do. Be very happy to post any links and any posts that you have that we could share with the community, and wish you best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me this time. I'll send you some links, and then when we have announcements, I'll send them to you, and maybe you can share them on another one of your video casts.
Surely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.